Hey everybody, I'm Jason Parker, Olympic medalist in speed skating from jasonparkerspeaks.com, and today I'm here with another one of my 11 lessons to living a world-class life. And I want to start this one off by sharing a really quick story, a personal story of mine. Going back to February of 1997, I got the opportunity to go to Nagano, Japan and compete in my very first World All-Round Championships. And this was a really big deal for me because this was the opportunity. Next to the Olympics, this is the next biggest competition and an opportunity for me to be able to compete head-to-head against all of my heroes. And now I had a truly amazing experience because of the fact that in the 1500 meters, I won a bronze medal. And to give you a little perspective on this is that, so I was new to the national team. This was my first World Championships, and back then it was really rare that you had somebody that just kind of popped onto the scene and made the podium. So it was a really big accomplishment for me. And so, but I want to actually ask you a question, kind of setting up the lesson for today, is what do you think was going through my mind after I crossed the line and actually knew that I found out I got that bronze medal? And the reason I ask you that is because my reaction probably isn't what you think it might have been. Because a normal reaction would have been like, I would have been like pumped and just like, yes, I got that, my first medal, awesome, good job. But that's not what it was. My first initial instinct was, what? Man, I did this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, and this wrong. And if I would have done those things right, I might have got a silver medal. And so the lesson for today is to acknowledge and recognize and celebrate your successes. It doesn't matter how big or how small. It's so important to do this because I didn't. And so I want you to understand is that I'd done that for a number of years. I was always so hard and so critical on myself. And what ended up happening to me, and is what likely may be happening to a lot of you, is you don't acknowledge those successes. And all it takes just just a few minutes to be like, what? Wow, that was really cool. I did something really special. I'm really proud of myself for doing that. Give yourself a pat on the back, and then you can move forward and say, okay, now what can I do to do better next time? But because I was skipping out of that first part, what ends up happening is if you're doing that same thing, if you don't acknowledge, recognize, and celebrate those successes, what will happen is eventually the subconscious mind is an amazing thing. Because it controls, it's such a powerful tool. And so what happens is that if you don't acknowledge, if you don't recognize, if you don't celebrate, if you don't congratulate yourself, if you don't reward yourself for things that you do well, eventually what will happen is the subconscious mind will take you out of the game. It'll be like, what's the point of working so hard? What's the point of doing all this stuff? What's the point? Why am I working so hard? So what it ends up doing is that it eventually, if you continue on without giving any recognition, it will eventually get to that point where it will start self-sabotaging. And the reason I know this is because that's what happened to me. I was so hard and so critical on myself for so many years, and I never acknowledged, I never celebrated, never recognized any of the successes that I had. Eventually what started happening is I stopped succeeding. I stopped getting the successes that I really wanted and I truly needed. And because I hadn't been feeding my subconscious mind. And so in my last year of competition, when I came up with these 11 lessons, when I finally started making the decision that, I'm going to go out in every single workout and I'm going to have a focus, I'm going to actually have a goal, a target for that day, for that workout. As soon as I started doing that, and then at the end of that workout, being, I did it. I did a great job. Gave myself a little pat on the back, and then moved forward. What ended up happening is that the more I did it, the more consistently I did that, my successes started to come back. I started getting better again because I had about 5 years where I never had a single personal best. 5 years. And I'd always told myself as soon as I stopped having those personal bests that I was going to retire. But I didn't want to retire because there was something within me that I still needed to do. So it wasn't until I applied this lesson and I started to acknowledge my successes, recognize and start celebrating those things that I was able to start getting more successes again. How cool is that? And that's how I ended up being able to retire at the top of my game by winning Olympic medal. And yes, I've said it before, I didn't win my Olympic medal the way I had originally envisioned and the way I had originally planned, but the bottom line is that I ended up getting it. So what I want you to start thinking about is I want you to start thinking about every single day, what are you doing to try and have a success? What are you doing that you need to recognize yourself for? What is your team doing that you need to recognize them for? What are the things that you need to celebrate? Because you need to start doing this every single day. And as soon as you start doing that, you'll start getting more and more and more successes. This is one of the things that I'm constantly working on too. This is what I'm going through right now too, is acknowledging my own successes so that I'll continue to have more and more of those successes as well. So with that, I strongly urge you, go out, write down some of the successes that you had. Start a success or a victory journal. That's like I like to call it, a victory journal of all the things that you've done well so that you acknowledge it. And when you start having a difficult time, you can go back to that victory journal and you can see all the amazing things that you've done. So with that, I'm Jason Parker from jasonparkerspeaks.com. And as always, I wish you all the best in happiness and health. And I want you to go out there every single day and truly love life and live it. We'll see you next time on the next video.